Hi everyone. Today I am going to change course from what I had originally planned to do. I'm filming this the day before Christmas Eve. I had planned on talking about a film from 1972 called We Won't Grow Old Together, but it was a rather grim movie. It didn't get me in the Christmas spirit, and I don't want to spread any gloom pre-Christmas. But I did see another film that filled me with a great deal of joy this week, and that was Steven Spielberg's latest film, The Fabelmans. And before I get into the movie, I'm going to just briefly discuss the movie-going experience because I've been sort of critiquing that as I have rejoined the AMC A-list and going to the movies again for the first time in over 2 years. And I've been critical of some of my experiences, legit complaints. But I have to say, when I saw The Fabelmans, the movie experience was A plus. I complained in a recent video that Spielberg's latest film wasn't even playing in the two AMC's close to me, which are only within 10-15 minutes away. But it did finally pop up at an AMC, but down in Princeton, which is about a half-hour ride down Route 1. Which I'd never been to the AMC in Princeton before. Route 1 being a road that anybody who lives close to it, I'm about 3 blocks off of Route 1, and for anywhere from New England to Miami, Route 1's not a pleasant drive. But in the middle of the day, it's somewhat bearable, and they had a really early show. I think it was 11:30 in the morning. I'm generally up at 4, so that's almost like evening for me. And as soon as I walked into the movie theater, I felt, an upscale atmosphere. This was indeed Princeton, which in New Jersey is like a sacred name. And when I went into the theater, nobody else there. Beautifully, the size was just absolutely perfect. Big, comfortable chairs. The previews were running. The theater itself was dark enough so that even the previews looked pretty good. The audio seemed right. No one else showed up. I was there all by myself. So as this was the first time for me in that theater, I changed my seat a couple times, found the ideal spot, lots of leg room. The theater got really dark for the feature, just absolutely beautiful. A plus movie going experience, and the movie, I just totally got into the movie, The Fabelmans, and this is basically Steven Spielberg's origin movie. His origin as a filmmaker, his autobiographical movie. We see him as a little boy. His parents are taking him to his first movie experience, and this is Cecil B. DeMille's The Greatest Show on Earth, and he is totally dumbfounded by the train wreck and the whole experience as well. So it's a story about his family life, the ups and downs, the migration from New Jersey. Spielberg grew up, I believe, his first 5 or 6 years in Haddonfield, New Jersey. They end up in Phoenix, Arizona, and eventually in the West Coast in Northern California. Now, the movie, Spielberg has never been my favorite director, and certainly his weaknesses are well known, but you cannot deny his strengths, and he's got some really big strengths, I think. And one of them being that he is so good with child actors, which he is here. Spielberg, who's called Sammy in the film, Samuel Fabelman, played by, when he's small and going to see The Greatest Show on Earth, Matteo Zarian played the part. The sense of wonder is expressed. And then later on, the Sammy of his teenage years, played by Gabriel LaBelle, and he hasn't gotten anywhere near the credit that he deserves. He looks a lot like Spielberg, but he is very, very effective. He basically has to carry the movie. It's all the scenes he's in all the scenes. Of course, the big time stars here, Paul Dano and Michelle Williams playing his parents, have gotten very good notices. Paul Dano maybe not as good as they should be either. He's really excellent. So we get very much a story of the family dynamics of the Fabelmans, and closely based on Spielberg's own childhood, which I was familiar with all this story because I read Molly Haskell's book on Spielberg a couple of years ago. Along with the his ability with actors in general, but especially with children, he's so good at illustrating the sense of wonder that children have. But he's also a great storyteller. He understands cinema, and this film, and The Fabelmans, for me, the family dynamics is interesting. All the performances are interesting. But what I got out of this film more than anything else was this sense of movies, of this sense of the power of cinema. And we see it from the very beginning. The train wreck from The Greatest Show on Earth is duplicated, much to his father's consternation, because he's gotten a Lionel train set. Now, Spielberg is about 3 years older than me, but I also had a Lionel train set. That was like the Christmas gift of all Christmas gifts for boys in the 1950s. But then he proceeds to wreck it. He proceeds to reenact the event in his own house, and then his mom comes up with the idea: film it. Then you won't have to keep wrecking it. You can film it, and then when he does that, he discovers the great power of movies, the great power of the images. And again, we see his filmmaking develop as a teenager. He organizes his Boy Scout troop into filming a Western, and then a war movie. He shows them to the Boy Scout troop and the parents, and everybody loves it. We also see a great moment when he directs an actor in the war movie, like the sole survivor of this battle, and he says, "Well, you want me to act?" And then young Sammy describes how to act in the scene, and the guy really gets into it. And part of this is part of the interest of this part of the story is that we get to see Sammy realizing that he has ability to create these images in what he's shooting, the performances, and in the editing. We see him editing these amateur 8mm and then 16mm films. But we also see him filming a camping trip, the family camping trip, and discovering secrets in the editing process, sort of like in Blow Up, where David Hemmings finds a dead body as he blows up the image of a dead body that he would have never discovered except through that image, which is the same thing as Sammy Fabelman discovers. And then the other film that we see him shoot and show is in his senior class trip, where they go to the beach, and he has encountered big league anti-Semitism in this Northern California town that his father has taken him to, because he now sees himself as amongst all these Aryan sequoia trees, he calls them. So he is indeed harassed and bullied, but he gets his revenge through this this film that he has made of the senior trip. And there's just a great shot as he has bubbling emotions from his family life, his love life that seems to have gone astray, and then looking around at the crowd. The people that he's getting his revenge on aren't so happy with the movie, but everybody else is having a ball. And, you know, this is really Spielberg understanding and yet sort of wondering how he has got this power to grab an audience and just totally enrapture them in the images that he has shot. And not only the kids, but the girlfriend who sort of jolts him at the senior prom, she's played by Chloe East, a character called Monica. She's a Shiksa. She's devoted to Jesus, but she has a little bit of trouble balancing out her love of Jesus and her sexual desires as regards to Sammy. Judd Hirsch has been much lauded for his about 5-minute role in the movie, the elderly uncle that has been out on the edges of the family, and he comes back and he gives a lot of advice to Sammy about the difference between art and family, how art and family pull themselves apart. And Jeannie Berlin, I just made a video on Heartbreak Kid. She plays Hadassah Fableman, and she has a couple really good moments in the movie. Now, I must say that there's another movie by director James Gray that came out recently called Armageddon Time, and that is his origin story about how, not so much about how he became a film director, but we get to see him. He's basically an artist and a young boy. I guess he's around 5th grade. But that's a very intimate story. It also shares the anti-Semitism that we get in the Fablemans, racism. But it's an interesting movie, and it's sort of been largely forgotten. Of course, Spielberg had a much bigger budget. He's a filmmaker who works on very robust emotions. James Gray, not so much. But it would make an interesting double bill. And then I got to make a brief mention of the finale of The Fablemans. This is, by this time, Sammy, just like Steven Spielberg, has gotten a job with CBS. He is looked at as sort of a boy wonder. People look at him and they say, there's real talent here. And so there's a cameo at the end of this film. Now, I didn't know it was coming. Now, it's all over YouTube, but I'm going to tell you what the cameo is. It's a great cameo. The movie's a little long, maybe. I was never bored, but it's worth getting to get to that cameo at the end of the film. Okay, so Christmas is 2 days away. So for those who celebrate, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and I'll see you after Christmas.